Section 1. The Boy with a Dream. A long time ago, in the small town of Henryville, Indiana, a boy named Harland Sanders was born in 1890. His family was poor. His father was a farmer. But when Harland was only 6 years old, his father died. His mother had to work, so little Harland had to take care of his younger brother and sister. At a young age, Harland learned how to cook. He didn't have a choice. His mother was busy all day, and someone had to prepare the food. Harland didn't complain. He went into the kitchen and started learning. Soon he could cook better than most adults. But life was not easy for Harland. When he was just 10 years old, he started working on farms to earn money. He left school when he was in the 7th grade because he had to support his family. He didn't like school very much, but he liked working with his hands. Over the years, Harland worked many jobs. He was a farmhand, a tram conductor, a soldier, a railroad worker, and even a lawyer for a short time. But nothing lasted. He always kept changing jobs. He was never afraid to try something new, but success never stayed with him. When he turned 40, Harland got a job at a gas station in Corbin, Kentucky. He also lived there. He started cooking meals for travelers who stopped for gas. He served chicken, biscuits, and other homemade dishes on his own dining table. People loved it. Word spread. More and more people started visiting his gas station just to eat his food. Harland didn't have a big restaurant or a team of chefs. He had a small kitchen and big dreams. He believed in one thing. If you do your best, people will notice. And they did. Soon he opened a small restaurant beside the gas station. He named it Sanders Court and Cafe. By then, Harland was in his 40s. Most people at that age are thinking of retirement. But for Harland, it felt like his journey had just begun. One day, he had an idea. He wanted to make the best fried chicken in the world. He spent days and nights mixing spices, trying different ways to cook the chicken. Sometimes it was too salty. Sometimes too dry. Sometimes people didn't like it, but he didn't stop. After trying over 1,000 times, he finally made a recipe that people loved. It had 11 secret herbs and spices. He kept the recipe safe and never told anyone. People started calling it the best chicken they ever tasted. Business started growing. His small restaurant became popular across Kentucky. Everyone who passed by wanted to try his chicken. He was finally finding some success. But he didn't know that life was going to test him again. Section 2. A Big Loss and a New Start. Harland Sanders was finally finding success. His restaurant, Sanders Court and Cafe, was doing well. People came from many places just to eat his fried chicken. They loved the taste. The secret recipe with 11 herbs and spices was special. No one else made chicken like him. He worked hard every day. He wore a white suit and a black bow tie. He looked like a real Southern gentleman. People began calling him Colonel Sanders, even though he was not a real Army colonel. But he liked the name, and soon it became part of his brand. Everything was going well, but life is not always fair. When Colonel Sanders was in his 60s, the government decided to build a new highway. The new road would not go through his town anymore. That meant fewer cars, fewer travelers, fewer customers. His restaurant, once full of people, became almost empty. Soon he had to close it down. It was a big shock for him. He had spent many years building his business. He had put all his energy into that place. Now it was gone. Most people would give up at this point, especially at that age. Colonel Sanders was 65 years old. He had no job, no restaurant, and very little money. All he had was a small monthly check from the government. Just $105. Many people believed his story was over, but he believed something else. He believed it's never too late to start again. He still had one thing left, his chicken recipe. So Colonel Sanders packed his things, took some cooking tools, and got into his old car. He started driving across the United States. He stopped at restaurants and motels. He offered to cook his chicken for them. He would say, "Let me cook you some chicken. If your customers like it, we can become partners." But most people said no. They didn't want to take the risk. They didn't believe in an old man selling chicken. Some laughed at him. Others told him to go away. But he didn't stop. He kept knocking on doors. He kept cooking his chicken. He kept sharing his dream. He got rejected over 1,000 times. But each time he said to himself, maybe the next one will say yes. And finally, someone did. A small restaurant owner tasted his chicken and said yes. Then another one joined. Then another. Slowly, Colonel Sanders started building something bigger than he ever imagined. He called it Kentucky Fried Chicken, or KFC for short. He didn't own the restaurants, but he gave them his recipe and trained them. In return, they gave him a small part of their earnings. This was the beginning of a new business model called franchising. People loved the food. More restaurants joined. The KFC name started to grow across America. By the time Colonel Sanders was 73 years old, there were over 600 KFC restaurants across the country. But this was still just the beginning of something even bigger. Section 3. A big deal and a bigger dream, Colonel. Sanders had done something amazing. At the age of 73, when most people were resting, he had built a huge business. There were more than 600 KFC restaurants in the United States. People loved the crispy chicken with his special blend of 11 herbs and spices. But managing a growing business was hard. Colonel Sanders was getting older and the work was becoming too much. He still traveled a lot. He still wore his white suit and smiled at customers, but the business side, contracts, money, expansion was very stressful. Colonel Sanders started thinking. He asked himself, can someone else help me grow KFC even bigger? That's when he met a group of smart businessmen. They were excited about KFC. They believed it could become a global brand, not just an American one. In 1964, Colonel Sanders made a huge decision. He sold the company to them for $2 million. But he made one request. He said, "Please let me stay as the face of KFC. Let me keep wearing the suit. Let me still talk to the people. That's who I am." The new owners agreed. Colonel Sanders would stay as the brand symbol. He would still travel, meet fans, and appear in ads. But now he didn't have to worry about managing the business. The new owners took KFC to the next level. They opened restaurants in Canada, the UK, and Australia. Soon KFC was in countries around the world. People everywhere loved the chicken. They didn't just love the taste, they loved the story behind it. They loved the idea of a man who started with nothing, who failed many times, and still never gave up. Even after selling the company, Colonel Sanders kept working. He visited restaurants, he shook hands with customers, he took photos with children. He kept telling people, work hard, don't quit. You are never too old to dream. He became more than just a businessman. He became a symbol of hope, a symbol that no matter your age, no matter how many times you fail, you can still succeed. As KFC grew, the brand became stronger. By the 1970s, KFC had more than 3,000 restaurants worldwide. The Colonel's face was on every box, every sign, and every commercial. He was a global icon. But even with all the fame, he stayed simple. He stayed humble. He still cared about one thing the most: good food and good people. He often said, I'm not in the chicken business. I am in the people business. Section 4, the world falls in love with KFC. After Colonel Sanders sold KFC in 1964, something amazing happened. The brand didn't just grow in America, it spread all over the world. The new owners worked hard. They had more money. They had better marketing. They had big plans. But even with all the changes, they kept one thing the same: the Colonel. They knew people trusted him. They knew his story was special. And they knew his face made people feel happy and inspired. So they kept his image on every KFC box. They used his voice in TV ads. And they asked him to travel to different countries. Even in his 70s, Colonel Sanders didn't stop. He visited Japan, Mexico, Canada, Australia, and England. Everywhere he went, people were excited. They stood in long lines just to see him. They wanted to shake his hand. They wanted to hear his story. Some even cried when they met him. In Japan, something very strange and wonderful happened. People began to associate KFC with Christmas. Yes, Christmas. There, it became a tradition to eat KFC chicken on Christmas Day. Families would place orders weeks in advance. Some stores had people dressed like Santa Claus and Colonel Sanders at the same time. The tradition became so big that it's still strong today. That's how powerful the KFC story became. It wasn't just about food anymore. It was about feelings, about memories, about comfort, about dreams. Back in the U.S., the Colonel kept working. He didn't have to, but he wanted to. He would often drive to KFC restaurants without telling anyone. He would sit down, order chicken, and taste it. Sometimes he didn't like it. He was very serious about the quality. If the chicken wasn't good, he would go to the kitchen and talk to the staff. He would teach them how to do it right. He would say, "It's not just chicken. It's KFC. It's my name. Do it with love." He believed in honesty and hard work. He often said, you have to treat people right, serve good food, and never cut corners. People respected that. Even young workers in restaurants felt proud when the Colonel visited. He made them feel important. He made them believe that even small jobs matter. By the 1980s, KFC had become one of the biggest fast food chains in the world. There were thousands of stores in over 60 countries. The company was making millions of dollars every year. But Colonel Sanders didn't care much about the money. He cared about people. He donated a lot to charity. He helped orphans, churches, and hospitals. He gave speeches about not giving up. He told young people, you can fail many times. Just don't quit. Wherever he went, he shared one powerful message. It's never too late to follow your dream. He became a motivational speaker. He spoke at schools, colleges, and business events. Even though his voice was soft and old, people listened carefully. Because when he talked, you could feel the truth in his words. Section 5. A Dream That Never Dies. Colonel Sanders was now a world icon. People from every country knew his face. They knew his white suit. They knew his story. And most of all, they knew his chicken. Even though he sold the company, the colonel still wore his suit every day. He still traveled to restaurants. He still gave interviews. He still checked the food. He once said, "I'm the ambassador of fried chicken." He was proud of what KFC had become. He was proud that his recipe, 11 herbs and spices, was still a secret, still special, and still loved by millions. But with time, his health began to decline. He was getting older. He had done so much in his life. He had worked hard, struggled, failed, and succeeded. In 1980, at the age of 90, Colonel Harland Sanders passed away. The whole world mourned. People cried. People remembered his smile, his kindness, and his spirit. Thousands of people attended his funeral. He was buried in his white suit, holding a Bible in his hand. He had finally found peace. But his story did not end there. Even after his death, the colonel lived on. In every KFC restaurant, in every bucket of chicken, and in every heart that believed in second chances. Today, KFC is one of the biggest fast food chains in the world. It has over 25,000 stores in more than 145 countries. And in every store, you'll see a picture of the colonel. Sometimes children ask, "Who is that man?" Their parents smile and say, "He's the man who never gave up." His story teaches us something important. Age doesn't matter. Failure doesn't mean the end. Dreams can come true if you work hard and don't quit. Colonel Sanders failed many times. He lost his job. He lost money. He got rejected again and again, but he kept going. At age 65, when most people retire, he started something new. He believed in his idea. He knocked on doors. He cooked chicken for strangers. He stayed strong, even when no one believed in him. Because of that courage, the world got KFC, and millions of people got inspired. Even today, entrepreneurs, students, and dreamers look up to him. They say, if the colonel could do it, maybe I can too. And they're right, because the colonel's biggest gift wasn't just fried chicken. It was hope. It was faith. It was the message that it's never too late to start again. So the next time you eat KFC, remember this. You're not just tasting chicken. You're tasting history. You're tasting a dream that came true. You're tasting the spirit of a man who never gave up. The end. There's no reason to be the richest man in the cemetery. You can't do any business from there. Colonel Sanders,